Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging back into a world many of you know, a dystopian setting we love to explore, but this time we're looking at it from a new angle, maybe a darker one. You know the games, you definitely know the name Haymitch Abernathy, that mentor, always guiding tributes, sometimes, well, kicking and screaming. Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving deep, really deep, into Suzanne Collins' brand new book, Sunrise on the Reaping. It's the prequel everyone's been waiting for. It pulls back the curtain on one of the most complex characters in the whole Hunger Games universe. So our mission today, we're going to explore the 50th Hunger Games, the infamous second quarter quell, and we'll see it all through the eyes of a young Haymitch Abernathy. We want to get into the plot, the themes, and really what this adds to the lore you already know.
Right. And for you listening, what's really key here, I think, is how much this prequel expands our whole understanding of Panem. It's not just like filling in historical details. It genuinely reshapes how we see the capital's cruelty, its politics, and crucially, how those seeds of rebellion were planted way back then.
Yeah.
This is a serious look into Haymitch's origins. It gives you that vital context for the man he becomes, right? The mentor, carrying all that weight, but still fiercely loyal.
Absolutely. It's a potential game changer for fans, isn't it? So let's set the scene. Get grounded in the timeline. This is book 5 in the series, but chronologically, we're going way back. We're talking decades before Katniss, specifically 24 years before she volunteered as tribute. So we're stepping into a Panem that feels familiar, but maybe even more terrifying in some ways. A whole generation before the Mockingjay.
Exactly. And the core of this story, the central event, is the 50th Hunger Games, the second quarter quell. Now, what's fascinating here is the twist. The specific, really diabolical twist the Capitol threw in for this anniversary. Because quarter quells, you see, they aren't just regular games, they're amplified. Designed to remind the districts about the rebellion, break their spirit all over again. And for the 50th, the Capitol decided to send twice the number of tributes into the arena.
Wait, twice the number?
Yeah, just imagine, not 2 kids from each district, but 4.
Wow, so that's 96 tributes in total.
96, it's systemic horror. This wasn't just entertainment, it was a calculated, brutal message. A reassertion of absolute power, pure psychological warfare, really.
That scale, doubling the tributes, it just makes this quell sound uniquely horrific, even compared to other games. And the person we follow through this nightmare is young Haymitch Abernathy. This is Haymitch before the mentor we know, right? Before the sarcasm, the drinking. At this point, he's just a kid from District 12, from the scene. The district everyone underestimates. But somehow, he becomes its only living victor for decades, until Katniss and Peeta. The sources say he was sharp, a natural survivor, maybe he still had a bit of, innocence isn't the right word, but he wasn't broken yet. And the book promises to show us exactly how that sharp wit, those survival instincts, and that spark of defiance we see later, how all that let him outsmart not just the other tributes, but the Capitol itself. In a way, it's not just about winning the game, it sounds like. It's about this ingenious kind of resistance, even inside the arena.
Precisely. And for you, the fan who knows the later story, what's so compelling is how this gives you that deep, intimate look into the trauma that shaped him. It's not just the how he weren't, it's the devastating psychological cost of that win. It explains so clearly why he carried those burdens, why the substance abuse later on, why he just fundamentally distrusted any authority. It's the origin story for his cynicism, yes, but also for that stubborn loyalty he eventually shows. It shows the trauma as this wound that never really healed, just scarred over, influencing everything.
That's incredibly powerful, yeah. It really does reframe everything we see him do later. It gives you a whole new appreciation or maybe understanding of him. So using Haymitch as this lens, it shines a light on the core ideas in Sunrise on the Reaping. And here's where it gets really interesting thinking about the weight of these themes.
Right.
The novel definitely dives headfirst into some heavy themes, building on what Collins did before, but adding, I think, some crucial new layers. First, you've got power and oppression, obvious in Panem, right? But here, in the second quarter quell, it's not just background noise. It's cranked up to 11. It's brazen. Doubling the tributes wasn't just a spectacle, it was a calculated escalation of terror. The book shows the Capitol using this quell to test new propaganda, new control methods, making sure every district felt completely crushed. It's a stark look at just how far they'd go. So it's the intensity and the specific methods of oppression during this quell that really stand out.
Exactly. Which leads us to the second theme, survival and strategy. Haymitch's journey is all about this, but maybe not how you'd expect. It's not about being the strongest or the best with a weapon. His tactics, they're incredibly clever, that's the highlight. He's not just fighting tributes. He seems to understand the arena itself, and maybe more importantly, the game maker's psychology. His win comes down to intelligence, basically, exploiting something unexpected about the arena design. It apparently made his games one of the most shocking ever. You'll be hooked watching how smart he had to be, how his mind was already working differently. It shows wit can be the ultimate weapon, right?
That's a really interesting point. So it wasn't like Katniss relying purely on hunting skills or instinct. Haymitch was playing a different game entirely, almost a psychological one against the game makers, too. That must have had huge implications for him afterwards.
Oh, absolutely. And that connects directly to a third theme, trauma and rebellion. The book really lays out why Haymitch became so mistrustful of authority. His specific experience, especially how he won, planted those first seeds of defiance. It wasn't just surviving, it was how he did it and what happened right after that cemented his quiet, lifelong rebellion. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it shows how the games, meant purely for control, could accidentally forge spirits like Haymitch's. Spirits that would eventually want to tear it all down. It reveals how personal trauma can fuel collective resistance down the line. His cynicism becomes less of a flaw, more like a shield, an insight.
It's a powerful reminder, isn't it? That even under total control, resistance finds a way. Sometimes subtly, psychologically, but deeply effective in the long run. And speaking of effectiveness, Suzanne Collins' writing style, it sounds like she really delivers again here. That signature, fast-paced, intense style we expect, but maybe even darker this time.
Definitely. Her writing is incredibly effective. You get those gripping action sequences in the arena. You feel the tension, the danger, every calculation Haymitch makes. It's very visceral. But beyond the action, she really digs into Haymitch's psychology. It's a tight first-person view, so you're right there inside his head. Feeling the desperation, the fear, but also the cleverness. It's not just another prequel with action. The emotional stakes feel higher. The focus on his internal world makes it feel darker, more tragic maybe than the original trilogy even. It's a sign of her skill, evoking that depth of feeling while still keeping the story moving so fast. The prose is sharp, stark sometimes, matches the world.
Okay, so after all that intensity of deep exploration, what's the verdict? What does this all mean for the book's impact? Let's talk strengths, maybe potential challenges too.
Well, the strengths are pretty significant according to the reviews. First off, it gives us this fascinating, much-needed backstory for Haymitch. He's such a fan favorite, right?
Definitely. People have wanted his story for years.
And this delivers not just answers, but real insight into his burnings. Second, the arena scenes are brutal, suspenseful. They capture the horror of the games really well, living up to the series' reputation. They feel fresh, too. And third, crucially, it adds serious layers to the Hunger Games lore. Fills in gaps about Panem a generation before Katniss, maybe hints at earlier resistance, shows how District 12 was affected after his win. It just enriches the whole world.
Okay, sounds compelling. But the sources also mentioned a couple of things readers might find, well, challenging. Firstly, it's flagged as being much darker, heavier than the other books. It doesn't pull punches on the psychological toll, the cruelty, so some might find it emotionally draining, maybe less hopeful.
That's fair. It is intense.
And the other point, which often comes up with prequels.
No.
We know Haymitch survives. Does that take away some of the tension?
That's a valid point about knowing the outcome, reducing suspense. But, I think you can reframe that weakness. Instead of wondering if he survives, the book pushes you to focus on the how and the why. How did he manage it? What did it cost him? It shifts the focus from just plot outcome to deep character study. You appreciate the strategy, the endurance, the sacrifices involved. It becomes less about what happens next and more about how did this happen and what was the true price, which is arguably a more mature reading experience, right?
Yeah, I can see that. Focusing on the how definitely adds that layer of depth. Makes it more about resilience, the cost of survival. So the final verdict on Sunrise on the Reaping sounds overwhelmingly positive. Called a powerful, heartbreaking addition to the universe. A must-read for fans wanting to understand Haymitch's pain, resilience, and brilliance. Sounds like it really cements Collins as a master of this genre. Got a very strong rating too, 4.5 out of 5 stars. So this deep dive really shows how Sunrise on the Reaping isn't just, another installment. It feels like a vital piece of the whole puzzle, giving us these profound insights into Haymitch, to Panem's history. It deepens our understanding and makes the original trilogy feel even richer, I think.
Absolutely. And I think this journey into Haymitch's past leaves us with a pretty compelling question to think about. What does his whole arc from this defiant kid cleverly gaming the system to the damaged mentor guiding its eventual destruction, what does that really tell us about survival, about the impact of oppression, and maybe how past trauma can somehow, paradoxically, fuel future defiance? How does that resonate beyond just the arena? It's something to really mull over after you finish the book.
Definitely. A lot to unpack there, as you say. a real legacy of resistance born from suffering. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Sunrise on the Reaping. We hope it's given you some new perspectives on this incredible, enduring world. Until next time, keep exploring.